Well, hello there, everyone. It is Monday, January 31st in the year 2022. Hopefully this finds you doing well. Make sure you subscribe. Got to readjust myself here. I'm going to talk a little bit more on Gary, Indiana today. And a buddy of mine, Millennial Mike, I think he's uploading a video on Gary also. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm sure it's going to be better than mine. He'll have graphics and text and pictures and whatnot. Here, you just get me blabbing. But anyway, I first found out about Gary, Indiana. Of course, I've heard about it because there's a song, and several different songs that reference Gary in it. And also the Jackson family, Michael Jackson. They all came from Gary, Indiana. And the missus actually owns a house on the same street where they grew up at. Okay. So anyway, I said this the other day. Michael Zuber is the one that put me in contact with a gentleman named Tom Olson. Tom Olson owns the Olson Group. It's a turnkey company. He also has several other companies. And Mike vouched for Tom Olson. And I had gotten to know Mike Zuber just a bit by then. He vouched for Tom Olson. He had met him, said he was a good person. He vouched for him. So when I got a hold of Tom, over a period of months, I talked both with Tom and Jared. Jared's his right-hand man, Jared Stokemeister. And both of them are great folks. I have met Jared in person. He's driven me around Gary. I've talked to him. I've texted him. I talked to Tom. I text Tom, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so I've gotten to know both of them. I have met Jared's mom. I've met my property managers. I've seen different houses in Gary. So Tom told me, going back a couple years ago, one of his dreams for Gary, because Gary, you can Google Gary, you can look, it's all over YouTube, the most miserable city in America. Skyrocketing crime, homicide, murders in Gary. I mean, it's there. But there's also somebody else I found when I was researching Gary. There's a gentleman, I think he was from Pennsylvania. I forget his name. But he went to Gary years ago, 10, 20 years ago maybe. And he found, because he was buying properties in, I think, Pennsylvania. He found properties in Gary that were really, really cheap, but they needed work. So he was hiring former inmates. He would advertise for inmates who had gotten out of prison that could do manual labor, and he hired them to rehab his houses. I wish I looked up his website. He has a website. I've never met this gentleman, but I don't know how many houses he has flipped, but he started 10, 20 years ago, maybe we'll say 15 years ago. I'm guessing, I could be wrong. Flipping houses in Gary, one house at a time, using former inmates as the labor, and he would pay them whatever the wage was, okay? All right, Tom Olson, then I don't know exactly when he started, but Tom told me he has flipped something like 2,000 houses in Gary, okay? Gary fell on extremely hard times. There are various cities in decay around the country, but I dare say Gary was the worst, or probably the worst. That's why so many things call it the most miserable city in America. But I'm going to tell you, what got me interested was, I talked to Tom, I talked to Jared the most, and I started running the numbers, and I was like, well, I can buy these houses here for lower than market value, and then market value in Gary is also lower than market value around the rest of the country. Okay, this is going back 3 years ago. All right, so I started buying houses from the turnkey company. I bought one in my self-directed IRA. My buddy and myself, we were up there. We went inside that house. Bought that one. That was my first one. And then I went and bought 4 more from the same turnkey company in that same year. It was 2019, I think it was. So I bought 5 houses that year from the turnkey company, and all cash flowed well. Let me see if I pulled any. Oh, I don't know if I did. Did I? Nope, I did. I'm sorry. I had run numbers on all the properties, so I pulled up some of my more recent buys. Okay. Turnkey houses, though, I still got them all. Haven't sold a single one. They're all doing well. I've had to do a little bit of repair work on, out of those 5, maybe 2 of them so far, something like that. But then since then, I've bought more houses. I've also bought more. I've bought a total of 7 from the Olson Group, I think, and I may buy more from them. Okay. I have also bought more from contacts that I've met up there, and I have also bought more houses from the MLS. And I do have sitting right here in front of me numbers I've run on this house I bought off the MLS. I bought 2 houses. If you remember when I talked about my 0 to 25 rentals in 4 years, when I was trying to buy, the year I bought 14 rentals, 2020, I was trying to buy 9 houses from a gentleman, seller financing, and I was getting impatient because it just took so long. And so I was perusing the MLS, and I found one house on the MLS, and the asking price was in the 60s. I think, I forget exactly what it was, but I bought it for $59,900. $59,900. Okay? If you know anything about rental property and running numbers, I have a video on how to run numbers. $59,900, the rent is $950. I think it might be more than that right now. Where is it? Nope, I'm sorry. It's $950 right now. It might have started at $900, but now it's at $950. I think it's going to go up to $1,000 this year. All right, you've heard about the 1% rule. That's not the 2% rule, but it's getting close to it. My positive cash flow on that, after paying all expenses, mortgage, which covers taxes and insurance, holding back money for repairs, vacancies, and capital expenditures, et cetera, my positive cash flow is $358.86. $358.86 a month. Okay, so that's not too shabby. A week after I found that one on the MLS, I found a second house on the MLS. Because remember, I was getting impatient because of that gentleman, the seller finance. And so I put an offer on that one and bought that one for $59,500. Okay, so $59,500. Remember, the first one's $59,900. It rents for $950. This one's $59,500, and it rents for $1,050. Okay, so again, sure beats the 1% rule. Positive monthly cash flow on that house is $436.53. That's after paying the mortgage, which includes taxes and insurance, and that's after holding out vacancies, repairs, and capital expenditures. Okay. Cash on cash ROI is 29.93%. So a near 30% ROI, cash on cash, buying a house off of the MLS. This was in November of 2020 when I closed on it, so I probably found it in October. Okay, so I got that one. All right. This gentleman I referenced with seller finance, I'm going to give you an example of this one. This house I bought from him for $49,200. Okay, it needed work. All right. I put once the tenant moved out, the first tenant moved out within a couple months, I put $11,500 into it. So that's $49.59. So I got about $60,000 into it, let's just say. It rents for $1,250. All right, $60,000 rents for $1,250. Blows the 1% rule out of the water, right? It's about 2%. All right. Not accounting for that rehab, when I bought it, my cash on cash was 33.09%. My positive cash flow was $598.44. Okay. I now got that $11,500 into it, and I don't have those numbers in front of me, how it changes things. But trust me, I'm positive cash flowing on that one. All right. Here's the deal I like. I had my property manager call me up one day and offer me 4 houses. 4 houses he knew about. I think it was 2 different sellers. Maybe 3. It's different sellers, but it was just 4 houses altogether. And I wanted all 4, but I just couldn't swing it. All right, so I bought 2 of them and asked my buddy if he wanted to buy 2, and he worked out where he could buy 2. So out of the 2 I bought, one I bought for $18,000, and this house was one the investor had bought it before me and started rehabbing it, but I guess ran out of money and he couldn't finish it. So it was partially rehabbed. I got it for $18,000. I put an additional $5,000 into it. I paid cash for this house. Put an additional $5,000 into it. Closing costs were $1,500. So all in, project cost was $24,500. So, and this house looked nice. It was hardwood floors. It looked nice. Okay. It wasn't big. It wasn't big or anything, but it looked nice. So I paid cash for it. And paying cash, you don't get as good a deals as when you leverage them. Okay. And this is a house I could potentially do a cashback refinance on, but maybe not. I like having paid off houses. So I paid cash for it, $24,500. That's counting closing costs. And it's still, cash on cash return was 22.94%. When can you pay cash for a house and get a cash on cash of 22.94%? Positive cash flow, monthly positive cash flow is $468.33. Okay. And I have other houses I've bought. I got one with a mortgage. I actually got a mortgage on this one. I bought it for $40,000. The mortgage was $32,000 after putting 20% down. So Jerry Padilla, he gave me that mortgage, prime lending. Okay. Cash on cash returns 35.3%. My monthly cash flow was $377. It rents right now for $850. Okay. All right. So enough on those things. A couple things right here. Tom Olson told me this 2-3 years ago. He said he thought his personal thoughts were something to the effect: the window of opportunity to finding those great deals in Gary was starting to close. And this was 2-3 years ago when he told me that. And he told me within 2-3 to 5 years. Okay, so the window is closing. So prices have gone up in Gary, just like they've gone up around the country. So I'm not bragging about my deals. I'm just saying what I've done, you can do in a different market of your choice. I'm not telling you to buy in Gary, okay? I'm not telling you to buy in Gary. You can do it in the market of your choice, because other markets, I've driven over I-70, gone over St. Louis. St. Louis looked like a war zone to me, looking down from the highway into it. Just several mile section, it just looked like a war zone. But St. Louis is a big city. And different cities I've been in. Baltimore is in decay, different places. Other cities I've been, I'm forgetting now, but Chicago, it's certain parts of the city. So it's happening all over the United States of America. Neighborhoods, cities are in decay. All right, sure, if you want to join in the Gary bandwagon, that's fine. That's fine. I'm not worried about losing deals. I'm already starting to branch out a bit, and I'm still looking at houses in Gary. All right, but I know in my mind, the deals I got yesterday, I can no longer get today, more than likely. Prices have gone up. But what I did, I helped a variety of people. I have a mastermind group, myself and Helicopter Pilot Caleb, we kind of started it, with whatever it is, 12, 14, 16 folks right now. All right, I got my buddy to buy some houses in Gary. I got my son to buy some houses in Gary. Helicopter Pilot Caleb has bought some houses in Gary. Millennial Mike has bought houses in Gary. Almost every single person in my mastermind group has bought houses in Gary. I thought about this over the past couple years, and it's like, am I making a mistake? Am I making a mistake that I'm dragging others into this with me? So I would tell everybody, and I still would tell them, do your own due diligence. I put it in my disclaimer in my description. Do your own due diligence. Just because Maskey's buying houses there doesn't mean you should buy houses there. Same for my mastermind group. Just because Maskey told you about this, I remember talking to Millennial Mike. I remember talking to, Glenn. I remember talking to you. I remember talking to Caleb. I remember talking to Will. I remember talking to my son and talking to others. And I would always say, do your own research. Do your own due diligence. Don't just blindly follow me. My guess is some folks blindly followed, but hopefully everyone did their own research. So same for you, since I don't know who you are. Do your own due diligence. Do your own research. I'm not telling you to buy in Gary. Can you Google Gary and find out everything I'm telling you? Yes. Is Gary perhaps turning itself around? Yes. Could Gary fail? Yes. I don't know what's going to happen in Gary. I know companies have moved into Gary. I know the potential is there. I know the city wants to improve the city. But I know the city has had some controversy with it too in the government. I don't know exactly what is going on, but there's been some controversy, okay? I know it gets cold there. I know they have a lot of snow there, all right? But it is what it is, all right? All right, so let me know what you think. Would you invest in the most miserable city in America? Do you have faith that a city can turn itself around? I've also looked at Detroit. I looked at Detroit 10 years ago. Before I even bought my first rental, I was looking at Detroit because, like, my goodness, prices fell so far down. And it was a big city, and they were going bankrupt. The police departments and the fire departments, their pensions, they got cut. Retired folks, their pensions got cut because the city fell on hard times. And Detroit's a much bigger city than Gary. Okay, me and Kevin went to Detroit one time with Graham Stephan, and they were funny. They were walking around the neighborhood, and an arsonist had set fire to houses, and they were running over to it. And they're characters. I don't recommend watching their channels, by the way. They've gone off the deep end like that. One last thing, and I'm going to sign this off. Millennial Mike made a video saying this, and I've thought a lot about it. I made a video a long time ago about gurus. Be aware of other YouTubers. I am not trying to sell you anything. Millennial Mike's not trying to sell you anything. Dominic Costeris is not trying to sell you anything. We don't have a course. We're not charging for mentorship. We're not charging you anything. Okay, we're not trying to sell you anything. Granted, I may write a book. I've already written one novel, so it's like, why not? You know, I may write another one just on my investing career. And if I do write one, I'll probably tell you about it. I'll probably hold it up and show it to you. You know, but you don't have to buy it because I've talked about everything that'll go in that book. I've talked about it on my channel. So if I ever do publish it, it's up to you if you want to buy it. All right. So anyway, this one's getting long. So let me know what you think. Would you consider investing in Gary, Indiana? If you haven't bought your first rental yet, what's stopping you? Sure, markets have gone up. I know that. All over the country, prices have gone up. So let me know what you think. All right. Mazske is signing out.